All right, welcome to the BattleTech Advanced 3062 Rattler Challenge Part 2, where we start the mission. A little bit of black screen here, so I have some time to explain some audio difficulties we had with the original screen capture. The big problem was the darn yellow jackets. They caused so much noise that we couldn't hear anything I said. It was just really obnoxious. Throw in the fact that we got a ton of memory leaks and that sort of thing. We ended up with some just kind of really choppy and poor video and just all the way across. So I'm coming back in and I'm just going to do some play-by-play over the top of this thing, and we'll go from there. So as we're getting started here, we'll go over some mission objectives, some things I've laid out for myself. In the previous attempts I made weren't very successful. This would be the third attempt to actually do it. And as I mentioned in the previous video, I just want to get visual confirmation of this damn Rattler. I never even got close enough before getting destroyed. So just want to get in. I want to see what the thing actually looks like. I was able to see the red outline. Looked pretty cool. Also, I want to know the specifications. What can it do? How can it defeat us? How many weapons does it have on it? It's got to be insane. 10,000 tons. So we want to get a look in there and just figure out everything it can do. Going over some of our other concepts, we want to see if the PPC debuffs from the light PPCs off of lambs work and actually affect the Rattler. We want to see if we can mess with this thing. Smoke is a big part of our strategy. We want to see if the smoke impacts its ability to hit us, because it has deadly accuracy, so it can get us. We want to confirm the FASCAM efficacy and see if just laying a ton of FASCAM can disrupt these units, fix them in place, and change the battlefield so it's a permissive environment for us. Yellow jackets, this thing spits out yellow jackets, so we've set up our lambs with anti-aircraft targeting. We want to be able to get those suckers out of the air. We want to be able to confirm the tag barrage efficacy, if that tag barrage is really the effective weapon that we think it's going to be. We also want to see if the mobility of our lambs has some efficacy, if that's going to keep us out of range of those giant artillery barrages. Because if that doesn't work, I don't know how you beat this thing. Finally, we want to try and defeat the Rattler. Fat chance, probably, but that's the goal of this thing. So we come up with an effective strategy, and we pound that thing into submission, and maybe we're the first ones to do it. So let's go ahead and hop into the game here. Like I said, the yellow jackets were just insanely loud, so we had to kill the audio. And the memory leaks on this map are, they're it's a whole thing. So we're going to see a lot of paused screens here while the game catches up. I'm speeding up the gameplay just to try and make it watchable. Most of this video, the intent of it is just to be a proof, but we'll go ahead and narrate it and try and make it kind of an interesting watch as well. So Darius has his things to say there. There's a lot of units loading onto the screen here. I think we're bringing 14, 16 units. We just saw the stuff pop up there on the left-hand side here. This is why we try and fix the audio, because the yellow jacket thing was just deafening for me. If I do a future video of this, it's just going to have to go completely off. But you can see on the left-hand screen there, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 lances that the 40th Shadow Division is bringing at you. You got support forces, ambushers, 4 support lances. And those are Word of Blake lances, so they're probably 6 units each, maybe. That's a lot. The good thing is, kind of starts you out here in the middle of the map. That big red blob over there is the Rattler. That's the best I had seen in the previous attempt, so never even got visual confirmation of that. So if we can just get a look at it, we'll have one of our key objectives completed. Taking a look at the terrain, we've got that big mountain over there on the other side. We're going to use that to our advantage. Previous attempts, we tried working the edge of the map over this empty space to get behind it, and that didn't really amount to much. But if we can get the height advantage here, you get a plus to hit when you're higher than your opponent. And of course, if they're shooting up at you, they get a bit of a disadvantage there. So that might lead to some survivability. So we're going to incorporate that into our strategy there. We've got the Rattler up there. We've got most of the lances that are going to be up there, and then of course the Rattler spits out maybe 1 or 2 vehicles every round to try and thwart your efforts. Even if you were just facing off against the Rattler, this thing would be a difficult challenge. But going off against all these additional units definitely complicates things. And then also to the rear of us, we've got a lance that sneaks up behind you. So it looks like we're going to figure out our initial strategy here, and it's like, well, which way do you go? You go left, you go right, you go right at the thing. Ultimately, I decided with our yellow jackets, I wanted to get them up close and personal as quickly as possible. We put those mortar 8s on there, and we've got the smoke rounds attached. So we got smoke and FASCAM on those mortar 8s. So the idea being here is if we can smoke these units out, especially these units up front, and look at that, that is just beautiful with all that smoke. So if those units can't see through the smoke, it's going to reduce their sensor range and their ability to spot and target us for the Rattler with those big artillery strikes. So, and you can see our memory leaks kicking in here. So if the rotors aren't spinning, the game is trying to catch up. But as we move forward here and try and get through these units, we're going to try and put a big line of smoke on all of these guys, and we'll see if that's an effective strategy or not. There's lots of units to choose from. You can see a lot of the units that they come across here. They've got some improved buffs there: ballistic damage, energy damage. So they've got, some of these units have increases, bonuses to hit and some various other buffs. So keep an eye out for, what we're looking at here. But we're looking at, big, heavy and assault units here. You got this big Archangel here. A lot of Gauss rifles, a lot of PPCs. A lot of stuff that's really, really good to take down a VTOL if it gets a hit. All these VTOLs, they can take smaller arms fire, but they get hit by a Gauss rifle or a PVC, and it's done, man. It's called Maru. That thing's going down. Spoiler alert: we're going to see some of that here in the not too distant future. So here we are, just trying to move up with this initial wave of yellow jackets and starting to lay down, essentially suppressive fire. In fact, really, that's the big part of this strategy. Is with the smoke and with the FASCAM, those are really the true suppressive agents, right? It's not like the old military days where you fire just a bunch of machine guns and make the enemy keep their heads down. Well, in this game, that's not going to be an effective strategy necessarily. First of all, the AI doesn't really hide or take cover, but if you can hit them with smoke, right, you're going to create difficulties for them to hit you. If you can get some FASCAM down, it's going to restrict their ability to move and have mobility. So they're not going to be able to get their evasion up without damaging themselves. And evasion is everything, right? You see here that when you start off the game starts you with a spawn protection of +8 evasion already. So you have situations like this where you have a partisan tank with 8 evasion. You're not hitting that with a conventional weapon, at least not very effectively. But smoke, FASCAM, of course, artillery is independent of all that. The problem with artillery is it's slow. It comes in one round later. With our strategy of using the tag barrage, that's going to come in 2 rounds later. So we'll see how that mechanic works a little bit. It's it's going to be a little bit of a slog getting through all this and trying to find good locations. Here we have the Rack 5 yellow jackets. So we got a couple of those spread in there. So we're going to kind of separate those guys out, take a different tactic. We're going to try and get back shots with those guys. Hopefully we do have a little bit of success with that. Because if we can get a back shot and jump the Rack 5 up to 5 or 6 shots, we can possibly take a unit down. With one burst. The other big factor here with those Rack 5 units is just ammo conservation. We're only able to bring 2 tons of ammo, and for as many units as you have on the field, that Rack 5 ammunition is going to just barely last you. So that's why we didn't rely on them too heavily. I mean, I suppose if you brought 10 yellow jackets with enough ammo, with 2 tons of ammo each, you might be able to do some damage on the non-support units, but getting them on that Rattler, once you get to that, you're not going to have nearly enough ammo to punch through. So you have to have a strategy that is completely ammo independent, or at least for that portion of it. So we'll see that on our lambs. Unfortunately, with the lambs, you can put enough weapons on the thing to really make it super viable. But we got light PVC, so we're hoping the PVC debuff is going to help us out. So now we're moving into our hail team or hail artillery vehicles here. Where we've got those Clan LRM-15s modded on there with the augmented FASCAM. The augmented FASCAM is definitely the way to go because it puts out a wide area of FASCAM onto the ground. And so far in my experience, the FASCAM, it does nice damage, it does okay, but its biggest effect really is it limits movement. The AI doesn't want to hurt itself. The AI will avoid artillery circles. It will also not, unless it's one of those units there where it's like an escort mission or a convoy mission rather. Those are the convoy trucks are the only ones that'll just follow their path and they'll go right into the FASCAM, but everything else will typically avoid it. And you'll see a lot here. They'll freeze in place and just take their shots without moving. If they're completely surrounded, they don't have a valid path. If they can jump out of it, they will, but otherwise they have a tendency to freeze in place, which is really, really powerful because they're not able to work up that evasion. So you can see where we've got some smoke going now. We are laying down these huge swaths of FASCAM. So like that champion, he's going to have a hard time operating. So already we're starting to see that maybe between smoke and FASCAM we can affect the battlefield to our advantage to some degree. The big question is will it be enough? The other thing to note here is at least on the first move here, these FASCAM or these hail units that we're moving, we're only getting 8 evasion on the first move. You might be able to finagle that and get to the extreme and get 9, but I think 8 is going to be 8 or 9 is going to be where we live, and you would think that would be enough. But 2 hexes there of smoke will give you a +2 difficulty for the unit to hit out of it, but a lot of these units are buffed with like +2 accuracy to begin with. So the smoke is really only acting to, debuff their buff, and it cancels it out, which, is exactly what you have to do. Because without the smoke, it would take that 8 evasion and the +2 to hit basically drops that down to a 6 evasion essentially. Throw any other advantages that they might have in, and that evasion starts to come down quite a bit. And if that makes it, even a 33% chance for them to hit, they have so many units. If they're firing 10 PVCs and Gauss rifles at you, well, the odds say that 3 of those might hit, and it only takes 1, Gauss rifle or ER PVC oftentimes to take these guys down. So we're trying to lay down a little bit of extra FASCAM on these tank units to really fix them in place. The hope also being that if the tanks do decide to move, they're going to be at the biggest disadvantage going through that FASCAM field. And as you can see, that FASCAM field is already quite extensive. So now we're going to take a look and see what our Phoenix Hawk units can do here. We've got the the ECM on there, double AMS, for the maximum survivability. These things have maximum armor. So we get up into the avionics mode though, and this is where we have a lot of movement. So this was definitely a good choice when it came to mobility and survivability. You can see that, with this guy here, we're getting 11 evasion. So now you think 11 evasion, all right, with the smoke, there's no way they're even going to have a chance to hit us, right? But I think we'll see that, percentages, when you have as many units as they have on the field, they kind of start to counteract even the most extreme measures you can take here. So, and I don't know what the max evasion you can get on the games. It looks like, I read the wiki and I saw one chart where it was like, at least it had gone up to maybe 13. I'm not quite sure what combination of things you would need to be able to do that, but probably something really small, double XL engine, throw in some mask, supercharger. I don't know if you can combine those things, but and then maybe some really flat terrain. Of course, that's the other reason we went with these type of units is, and as I've found playing this game, especially as I've gotten to the end game, it's not that the Op 4 is my biggest enemy. Not really. More often than not, it's terrain. Whether you're in an urban environment or whether you're, on some of these just crazy maps where you have extreme drop-offs and different things, it's, sometimes just getting your units to where they need to be is incredibly difficult. Kind of the early mid-game strategy is, get as many LRM boats as you can, right? And that helps you beat terrain because you have indirect fire. But sometimes on these maps, you'll start really far back, and you can never even get those guys into position. Or by the time you do, they're kind of irrelevant or superfluous. And then they're at a disadvantage too. This particular modification of the game with 3062 is they have a tendency to hot drop you as well, right in the middle of enemy lances. And your LRM carriers or any of your carriers, whatever you choose, are at a really quick disadvantage, because you can't knock out enough of those enemy lances to protect those vulnerable units. So yeah, we can see all these units are buffed up here, with energy and ballistic buffs. Now, Steve, I think we'll end up focusing up on him a little bit, take some more strikes. He's caught up there in that FASCAM field. So we'll see how he operates as we move on. And of course, we're just slogging through here with our Phoenix Hawks, getting them, up over towards that mountain to try and take advantage of our height. And between all of our units and all of their units, there's these end up being pretty long rounds. Yeah, I think just to get through this particular battle, it took me about 4 hours just to get through to the end result. But luckily, we're speeding this up and we're editing it down just a bit, so that's not 4 hours on YouTube. Although it might end up being half that much. I think just the intro in part 1 was about 30 minutes, right? So this video ended up being about 30 minutes as well. So we'll try and keep them in 30-minute increments and get this thing through to resolution. And as I said, this video is now turned mostly into a proof of concept. Hopefully it gives people some ideas to craft their own strategies, see what I've done here and see how effective people think that is, and if they can use parts of the strategy in their own attempts. We'll find that some things are really, really effective and you'll want to use, and we'll find a couple other concepts that were half-baked, maybe a little just not as, see, like they got missile accuracy, these guys got everything. But yeah, there's a couple things that were like, yeah, they're really good ideas, and they kind of worked, but is it enough, or was it even really necessary in the first place? So we'll do a bit of a breakdown at the end and go over what we've learned and what we've accomplished. And I find that amusing now. It's like, oh, this is a prime spot for an ambush. Okay, we're only assaulting a mobile fortress here. I'm not sure who's ambushing who at this point. So now that the enemy gets its turn and is going through its units, that's where we start to see this memory leaking really kind of be a factor, as it's trying to figure out how and which of my units to destroy first. So we see the landmines do a little bit of effectiveness there as some of these units try and move through it. But you'll notice that nobody's zipping across the map to get at us. So we've got, I think we can say, even now, that the FASCAM is as much of this as you can get down on these support units. That's a viable strategy. I think the question then becomes, how much of it do you need? You definitely want to put down this nice carpet of FASCAM, but how many units do you really need to bring to accomplish that? Because FASCAM alone is not going to win the battle for you, right? These units, yes, they'll fix themselves in place and they won't run through it, but that also means, unfortunately, they're not going to run around and blow their damn legs off like I wanted them to do. But it definitely makes for a more manageable game. So augmented FASCAM, getting that down, definitely a good strategy. I use the Hail artillery vehicle, which only allows you to drop in like one of these guys at a time per strike. So ultimately, you may want to do, some sort of LRM artillery vehicle where you can multi-target, drop down like 3 of these fields at once. That might limit the amount of units that you need to bring in to get this stuff deployed. So here we'll see I'm already taking really effective shots, knocking these guys down. Even with the 9 evasion, they're still doing some significant damage. Yeah, we'll continue to see these memory leaks be an issue. That was a nice stat to see right there. So this Archangel took a couple steps forward. Landmines exploded at 20. Yeah, if you get a chance and you do lay some of this FASCAM, see there we've already lost our first unit. So we're at the beginning of round 1 and we've already lost one. So yeah, you can kind of already start to imagine that if you're losing 1 or 2 units per round, the attrition is going to be completely unsustainable. And of course, the game is frozen because it's trying to figure out how much damage to apply to us. So I think we're going to go ahead and stop there, and then we'll finish up round 1 in part 3, and we'll continue the assault there. So I think we learned some stuff already, and we'll call it good.